You're inside a cloud. The world outside vanishes into cotton white nothing. The plane tilts backward. Your stomach lifts. Every nerve in your body reports a steep climb. Then your eyes land on the small glass screen in front of you. It shows the aircraft pointed down. Your body says you are climbing. The instrument says you are diving. One of them is lying, and that lie can kill you in seconds. That instrument was not designed just for navigation. It was built to override your inner ear. Because your inner ear evolved for a very different world, not for clouds, but for the sudden sway of a limb, the lunge of a predator, a 30-foot drop that would break your spine. Your balance system never left the trees. It hasn't changed in millions of years. So when you fly blind, it runs an ancient program. It feeds your brain a version of reality that no longer applies. Your own body becomes the enemy. The artificial horizon becomes the only voice you can trust. A scientist named Ashton Graybiel spent a lifetime proving how fragile your inner ear really is. He built tilted rooms and spinning chairs. He showed that without vision, humans can't reliably find up. Another researcher, Fred Previc, mapped the mental compass your brain constructs for motion and gravity. He found that flight dissolves that compass. The horizon your mind paints on the world simply erases itself. You become a primate adrift in a silent void. That is the problem the artificial horizon was invented to solve. But here is the stranger truth. It doesn't just show you the missing horizon. It replaces the one your brain lost. It is a prosthetic sense grafted onto your consciousness, and you must learn to trust it more than your own bones. The history of this tool begins with a toy, a spinning top that resists being tipped. In 1852, a physicist named Leon Foucault used a spinning mass to prove the Earth rotated. Later, an American called Elmer Sperry saw its real promise. He understood that a gyroscope could hold a fixed orientation no matter how the world tilted around it. By 1929, his son Lawrence Sperry had built the first practical artificial horizon. It was a modest mechanical globe, half black, half white, that mimicked the real horizon. That little ball changed aviation forever. Before its arrival, clouds were a death trap. Pilots called it the soup. You would fly into gray nothingness and never come out. Your inner ear would whisper that you were level and straight. Meanwhile, you were spiraling into the ground. Dozens of U.S. Army pilots died this way in the 1920s. One official report from that era described a pilot screaming at the broken instrument. He fought the controls to match his own twisted sensations. The plane smashed into invisible earth. The report's conclusion was brutal. You cannot trust your body in the blind. You must trust a spinning machine instead. That was not merely a technical shift. It was a psychological revolution. For the first time, a human had to silence an instinct that had protected their ancestors for millions of years. Your own great-grandparents passed down the inner ear you carry now. The same fluid-filled rings that keep you upright on a curb. Those 3 tiny canals detect rotation. Swirling liquid brushes microscopic hairs. Your brain reads the signal, turning left. Below them sit 2 sacs called otolith organs. They feel gravity and acceleration. Tiny calcium crystals press on nerve endings. When you accelerate, the crystals lag backward. Your brain interprets this lag as a tilt. That's why a speeding train feels like it's tilting upward. On the ground, this blending of acceleration and gravity works perfectly. In the air, it becomes a lethal illusion. The most famous trap is the graveyard spiral. You enter a gentle turn. The fluid in your canal swirls. After about 20 seconds, it settles. Your inner ear now reports that the turn has stopped. You feel level. But you are still turning. A glance at the artificial horizon shows a steady bank. Your body screams that the instrument is broken. Panic overrides your training. You tilt the wings back to what feels level. This actually steepens the turn into a spiraling dive. The altimeter drops. Speed builds. Your inner ear continues to report straight and level. The ground arrives without any warning. This single illusion has killed more pilots than engine failures. The U.S. National Transportation Safety Board found that spatial disorientation causes up to 10% of all general aviation accidents. In fatal crashes, it was the primary cause in over 40% of cases. When the crash is deadly, your own ear is more likely to blame than a broken engine. Another trick of the ears is even stranger, the somatographic illusion. When a plane accelerates sharply, the otoliths feel a backward push. They merge it with gravity into a single false signal. Your brain concludes you are in a steep climb. Your body is certain. So you push the nose down. You push a perfectly level plane toward the earth. All because your inner ear cannot separate speed from pitch. This is not a pilot's failure. It is a fell on the human design. You inherited a balance system tuned for tree frogs and lemurs. It expects solid ground and visible motion. It never co-evolved with acceleration without scenery. That is why the artificial horizon is not just another dial. It is a psychological weapon aimed at your brain's deepest error. Every time you glance at it, you choose the machine over your flesh. You command your amygdala to stand down. Early cockpits had only a primitive gyro, a black and white ball. Yet they saved lives. But pilots needed to be completely retrained. A psychologist named Paul Fitz shaped instrument training during World War II. He ran experiments where pilots flew while their chairs were secretly tilted. Even informed of the trick, they kept leaning against the false tilt. Their bodies refused to surrender. It took a disciplined, almost meditative ritual to break that grip. Pilots learned a scan pattern: attitude indicator, altimeter, airspeed, repeat. And conscious cycling literally crowds out the screams from your inner ear. You use your prefrontal cortex to veto your limbic system. But the limbic system is millions of years older. It never gives up. Every pilot continues to feel the conflict. They feel the cold spike of fear when instruments and body diverge. They learn to act in spite of it. And sometimes they fail. In 1999, John F. Kennedy Jr. flew into a hazy night over the Atlantic. No visible horizon. He banked his plane into a simple turn. His inner ear convinced him he was level. The artificial horizon sat right in front of him. He did not trust it enough. The NTSB ruled spatial disorientation as the cause. A 38-year-old man, undone by the oldest part of his own brain. He joined a grim tradition as old as instrument flight. Yet the artificial horizon keeps evolving. Modern versions use laser gyros with no moving parts. The digital airplane icon stays aligned with a glowing blue and brown Earth, but the psychological battle is exactly the same. The same ancient error is hardwired into your bones. You still need a conscious act of faith. Faith not in a deity, but in a cartoon of the world. That ability is extraordinary. You can choose to believe a machine over your own nervous system. No other creature can do that. A dog will never ignore its inner ear because a picture told it to. But you can. This capacity to reason past your senses is perhaps the most human thing there is. It lets you enter realms your body was never meant to inhabit: outer space, the ocean floor, the silent belly of a cloud. Astronauts experience their own version when the rockets stop. Their otoliths scream that gravity has vanished. They feel an endless fall. Some never fully adapt. They work in space with a quiet terror thrumming in their spine. Yet they trust the instruments. They repair a station, while their reptile brain panics about falling from a branch, because a small spinning gyro promises a different story. This is the real truth of the artificial horizon. It is not a navigation tool. It is a psychological prosthesis. It was deliberately engineered to bypass your primate balance system. And in doing so, it revealed something profound. Your deepest trust is not your body. It is a story you choose to believe. When you board an airliner, you trust a pilot who has made that instrument their new inner ear. But the original primate ear still lives inside their skull, ready to disagree. On a cloud-choked night, they hear its ancient voice again. They feel the lie rising in their throat, and they must, once more, talk their ancient brain back into the sky. Your body will never quite belong among the clouds. It is a beautiful, mismatched collection of adaptations built for branches and solid ground. When you look at that calm instrument horizon, you see a truce. A truce between the primate you were and the machine-aided human you've become. Deep in your genes, the branch still bends. The instrument says the branch isn't there. It never was. And you choose the instrument every time. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel. A new story every week.